Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today we have some insane rumours for Ahsoka Season 2. A couple of days ago we found out Rory McCann is replacing the late great Ray Stevenson as Baylan. But today we have another update for the show. According to Christian Harloff, Season 2 is going to have more Clone Wars flashbacks, and we're getting the return of Hayden Christensen, who is said to have a more significant role as both Anakin's Force Ghost and Anakin in flashbacks, and we're also getting the return of Ariana Greenblatt. But the biggest update, Ewan McGregor is joining the cast as Obi-Wan Kenobi in these aforementioned flashbacks. I wouldn't be surprised if this is true. There have been some rumblings for quite some time, but the fandom is a bit worried. There is a really valid concern that instead of focusing on the current day storyline with Ahsoka and Sabine trying to get back home, that Season 2 is just going to be a member berries fest. I think the flashbacks worked really well in the first season. I do think the visual aspect is going to be better with the way they're filming the second season, but when you're talking about Anakin, her former master, and now Obi-Wan, those were two essential figures in Ahsoka's early life and training. But then there's another part of me that thinks, why not go all out and just say, we're gonna make a live-action Clone Wars spin-off? And so, in light of this rumour, I do have a theory of the way they're gonna go about it. I don't think Obi-Wan's gonna appear in too many flashbacks, but the one I think they're going to adapt is the Mortis arc from the Clone Wars Season 3. Considering there is some sort of connection between Peridea and Mortis, and you couple this with the fact many fans who watch the recent shows never watch the animated stuff, they could explain to casual audiences why the Mortis gods matter by showing them a flashback to the first time Ahsoka met them, and also explain their significance. I will just say though, when that episode first dropped, and in years since, there has been a good percentage of fans who just don't vibe with the concept. It's the same deal with the world between worlds. To a lot of fans, these fantastical, mythological elements just don't seem to fit in the Star Wars universe. And I don't know if this is going to be controversial to say, but I do get this impression. Does Dave Filoni really know where he's going with all of this? Between the Clone Wars and Rebels and now Ahsoka, there has been interconnectivity between all of these things, but then you listen to interviews with Dave Filoni where he's talking about them, and you don't get the impression he knows where he's going with all of this. It's been years, and he still gives very vague answers, alluding to some greater plan for all of this stuff. But sometimes I wonder, is he just making it up as he goes along? And you know, while they have established a lot of lore surrounding the Celestials both in canon and legends, problems do come up when you try and fit it into the context of the Star Wars saga. The Legends explanation makes sense, but what they're doing in canon does have a lot of issues. I might go into more detail in a separate video, but to me, where everything is heading, for it to make sense, they do need to draw from Legends, how these gods were not truly deities. The font of power, Abeloth, bringing in those elements makes a lot more sense. But at the moment, you know, I'm very excited for Ahsoka Season 2, but I'm very worried we're just going to be left with more questions than answers, which seems to be the Filoni way. Leaving things up in the air and just saying, I'll return to it a different time. Well, please give us something in Ahsoka Season 2. But anyway, moving on to more Star Wars news, another big update. And this is in light of James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi. We have a pretty surprising development. A lot of this has been known for pretty much 9 or 10 months, I think. James Mangold recently said he doesn't want to be tied down by Star Wars lore, and fans responded very disappointed by saying this is going to be a complete disaster. But what I want to show you is it could have been much worse. The movie has more going for it than you think. It's got co-writer Beau Willimon, who worked on Andor's first season, and now more information has emerged about the original version of Dawn of the Jedi. But I should just say this, I don't know if this is a movie the wider fandom generally wants. If they can't give the original Jedi nuance and the esotericism it deserves, it's not a movie worth pursuing. It's looking more and more like we have another Obi-Wan Kenobi situation on our hands, in the sense that the original project was being developed as a trilogy, they got very far into concepts, production was going to start, and then it got scrapped, only to be picked up by a different showrunner selected by Kathleen Kennedy. But unlike the Kenobi show, where a lot of fans think the original version as a movie would have worked better, in the case of Dawn of the Jedi, the reputation of the original writers may have made it more controversial than the upcoming movie that we're getting by James Mangold. So what am I talking about? First Jedi Star Wars movie scrapped, new director weighs in on future development. The Game of Thrones creators, David Benioff and Dan Weiss, a few years ago were in the process of making a Dawn of the Jedi trilogy, 3 movies about the first ever Jedi. These guys, they weren't just casually approaching it, they were dead serious about it. They were super pumped to tell a story in the galaxy far, far away. But you know, some fans say that Weiss and Benioff ruined Game of Thrones, especially in season 8, so maybe we dodged a bullet. There were creative differences, scheduling conflicts, they signed an exclusive deal with Netflix, and so apparently juggling all of this just wasn't working out. But there has been a lot of speculation behind the scenes that the reason they walked away from the Star Wars trilogy, which they were so excited about, was due to creative clashes. You know, maybe Kathleen Kennedy and some others at the studio didn't like their ideas, they didn't like their direction for the story. So why is this important today? Because with production of James Mangold's movie being sometime in the near future, the Game of Thrones creators, the ones who reportedly had the original version of the Star Wars trilogy, reflected on their experience. Dan Weiss said this: "We got relatively far story-wise with the first movie, and we had a basic roadmap for the other 2. It was a shame. So there was a plan in place, and Weiss is still upset about it. He said it was such a shame. Our batting average on things conceived to actually things finished has never been tremendously high, so there will be projects that get away for various reasons." But he didn't want to get into the specifics on what was going on inside of Lucasfilm. Star Wars fans read between the lines though, and I'm sure some of the elements from their trilogy are going to be repurposed for the James Mangold film. And while we're now in a very different situation with the state of Star Wars, we're now years removed from when they were working on these movies, but you get a sense, when they're talking about Star Wars, they would have loved to have made them, and they're still saying it's a shame, they still wish those films would have come out. I know we're going back 25,000 years, and there aren't going to be any familiar characters other than maybe Hu Yang. It's still a very important movie, how the Jedi Order came about. But in positive Star Wars news, Beau Willimon is going to be the co-writer, and now, Lucasfilm is so impressed, they're eyeing him for more Star Wars projects after Dawn of the Jedi. According to Daniel RPK, so again take this with a huge pinch of salt, Star Wars is looking to expand its collaboration amongst co-writers. After Dawn of the Jedi, Beau Willimon might be writing his own Star Wars movie. This should come to the excitement of many Star Wars fans. He was a major contributor to Andor Season 1, notably in Arcana 5. How do you guys feel about this? If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.